Welcome back, my little nightmares. This is me, Queen Nightmare, and I'm going to read a Shy Boy, ticci Toby x Been Drowned love story. I know this is really weird that I'm giving out 3 stories, but I'm trying to make it to pick up where I'm supposed to. I'm trying to have a minimum of 3 videos a week. And if I don't, it's probably because I am getting ready for graduation, because I graduate this year. I am a class of 2021. And it will be my graduation will be either on the 8th of June, which will be I think streamed online with my WAPS, Winona Area Public Schools website, which if you want to see me graduating, there you go. You already know my real name, so you'll find me there. I'm the only Aurora in my class, so when they say my name, you'll know. Okay. Here it is. Shy Boy, ticci Toby x Been Drowned. It's by hollow_strings. Toby's eyes narrowed as he... Wait, what? This is just part of the thing, isn't it? Okay, let's go in. It wasn't a description, it was just literally telling what happens in it. Little lost boy. I am a lost boy from Netherland. Little lost boy. My eyes narrowed as I stared at the blonde. Basically what they just said. The blonde male who lay unconscious in the small shed behind my old beaten-up home. Sorry. His soaked hair pooling over his paled, thin arms. If it weren't for his strained breathing, I would have thought he was dead. Peeking out of the shed, I looked around before kneeling down by the boy, grabbing a handful of his soaked hair and lifting his head. It didn't look like he looked for the... It didn't take long for me to pick the smaller male up with ease and walk from the small space. Whoever this boy was, he clearly wasn't human, nor anything close to anything I'd seen throughout my time of being a proxy, and I'd seen a lot of strange creatures. Ben's POV. I slowly woke up to the sound of soft humming, a female's voice not too far away from me. I kept my eyes closed, shivering, until I felt a warm material pulled over me. So who do you think he is? A male voice asked, making me shift a little. Not sure, but who and whatever he is too weak to have been like this for a while. Recent shock most likely caused him to pass out. I liked this female voice. It was nice and sweet, but rough, and had a slight Texas tang to it. I ain't doing a Texan. I ain't that. I'm American, not Merkin, okay? You know what I mean? That doesn't explain the water and why he ended up in the shed. Images flashed through my memories, making me flinch. Come on, Ben. Let's play a game. It's called Been Drowned. I felt a cold rush around me as I zoned. Oh my goodness, I can't speak. I zoned out into my thoughts, my hair flowing upwards over my face as I flailed and struggled to get to the surface. 4 hands holding me down. My cousins. How could they hurt me like that? I remember screaming for my father who sat with a beer can not too far away. However, he did nothing. Of course he didn't. Why was I so stupid? I should have known something was up. Come on, Ben. It's a nice day outside. I'd love for us for us all to go over to the lake. Hurry before it gets too crowded. Whoa. Toby, come and look at this. I snapped half out of it, feeling cold fingertips on my cheek. Pulling away a few seconds later. Is that blood? I sucked in a small breath before feeling my hair being pulled in from my eyes. Looks like it. Coming from his eyes, too. Come on, go get that bucket of water and a cloth. I'll wipe his face down again. I heard footsteps and waited, hearing slight humming coming again. This what felt like my ears twitch. Strange feeling, honestly. A few minutes passed before I heard slight shuffling and footsteps, and as soon as I felt the warm, wet liquid on my cheek, I freaked. All air was sucked from my lungs, and I shot my head up, gripping at a thin wrist tightly. Shit, he has a strong grip, the female voice hissed. Toby, help me out here. I felt a grip that could only be described as painful, crushing feeling on my wrist, making me loosen my grip instantly, and latch my hand onto the others, who only loosened his grip and nothing more. I think it was the water, he asked. I didn't hear a response from the female. What's with the shackles? Shackles? What shackles? Deciding I wanted to see these people, I slowly opened my eyes. The first thing I saw was the bare hand that gripped my wrist. Following up the arm, I clad in a skin-tight black material, coming to realize it was a black turtleneck, meeting the pale brown eyes of the boy. I took in his features as he seemed to be doing the same. Pale skin with dark shadows under his eyes, a large gash clear on his left cheek, revealing slightly yellow teeth, a lightly haired chin, and short ear-length hair of the same oak color, halfly hidden by a baseball cap that sat on his head. He cocked his head to the side, cracking his neck in the process. He has EJ's like eyes, black. He must have seen me narrow my eyes because he did the same. How old are you, honey? I heard the Texas tinging voice. I don't think that's Texan. And I told you, I ain't doing a Texan voice. The tanging voice asked, slowly moving to look over my shoulder. I looked at the girl who had red hair that ended in a feathered black tips, black cat ears, green eyes. I didn't take in her attire as she was clearly expecting an answer. 12, I answer, though was put off hearing slight glitching sounds as I talked. Only 12? The boy asked, and I nodded slightly. What's your name? Ben Lawman, born 1992, I answered, to clarify it before them, looking at me in disbelief. I shrank into the blanket that covered me. 1992? Honey, are you sure you're not 12? She asked. I had to stop to think about it. Well, it is 2004, right? I looked at the boy who had let go of my wrist, was now counting his fingers with narrowed eyes. It's 2017. My eyes widened slightly. Dude, you're 24. Well, shit. Scared of a reflection. A few hours had passed, and I was becoming pretty irritated with being poked and prodded. Apparently, I looked weird, which I understand. Brown, blonde hair and blue eyes topped off with my cheekbones and bridge of my nose covered with freckles wasn't the most attractive thing in the world. Maybe he had growth issues. Sighing softly, I lay down on the couch. I was now being pulled the oddly blue-gray hood of the brownie gray hoodie that I had been lent up. What? Shh. Toby, you... Who says that? C-O-C-K. Who calls that one? I know cocky. You dick. You've made him uncomfortable. It wasn't my fault, Evie. Well, it clearly was. Look at him. I stood up and walked past the two, not enjoying the loud yelling in my strangely sensitive ears. This is clearly how you've raised him, woman. He can't make friends, and all he ever does is play those fucking video games. Sitting in front of the TV, I stare. When you hear some of that dialogue, it's just parts of his past coming back. Just letting you know. So it kind of sounds weird coming back, and you hear me say those weird dialogue. Sitting in front of the TV, I stared at it, quietly feeling stares burning the back of my head. You okay, kid? I heard a slight slap sound. Toby, he's a child. Oh, crap. You okay, kid? Sorry. I didn't see the little gash mark. I heard a slight slap sound. Toby, he isn't a child. It's a bad habit. They continue bickering. Before Toby spoke up, hey, Ben, forget it. That thing hasn't worked in years. Ignoring him, I slid my fingers alongside the TV, clicking the power button. Nothing. Curious little pup, isn't he? Once again, I ignored as I trailed my almost scarily sharp black nails over the TV screen. It flickered a little. I felt a slight static sensation shoot through my arms, instantly making me recoil and elbow Toby in the stomach. He didn't have a response to it, simply stared at me as I looked at him over my shoulder, shrugging slightly. Toby's POV. I stared at Ben as he looked back at me with owl-like eyes, his crimson irises searching my expression. I'd heard ghosts have no concept of time, so maybe he's a ghost. No, I can touch him, and that doesn't make any sense. He looked back at the screen, tapping the screen with his nails a little. I looked over at B.E., who shrugged. He slid his hands over the screen for a few more seconds before his hands, flat, straight, went through the screen with a few lingering pixels. He let out a loud yelp, recoiling recoiling his hands, falling back against my stomach, the hood of the hoodie falling over his eyes. I chuckled and kneeled down, now looking up at him slightly, lifting the hood. Hey kid, you hungry? I think I have some snacks. And pizza. His eyes almost lit up, and he nodded quickly. I smiled and ruffled his hair, walking past Evie, who glared at me. Nothing new. I stopped by the kitchen doorway, looking at him to see him slide his hands through the screen. Sighing softly, I glanced out of the window. What was I even going to do with this kid? Walking into the kitchen, I opened the fridge while biting at the skin around my thumb while I scanned the almost empty area. Pushing my hat up I rubbed my eyes, pulling the plate of a day-old pizza, slid it into the microwave, setting the timer on for a minute, before peeking into the living room, rolling my eyes as I found Evie playing with his pointed ears. Even he poked at a little shocked expression. Maybe this kid was human at some point. I wasn't going to jump to conclusions. Walking into the living room, I walked up behind Evie, who grumbled when I picked her up and dropped her on the couch. I kneeled down to his sitting form, tilted my head as he traced the shape of his ears repeatedly. Nice ears. I saw them twitch earlier. The coolest thing I can do is this. I stuck out my tongue, crossing my eyes, earning a little chuckle from him. He sounded like a staticky microphone. Honestly, something I gotta use to sense good old noodle arms. Noodle arms picked me up from the fire. Strange. Really, I always wanted to be something like a firefighter. When I was about 10, from what I can remember. Now turns out I'm pyromaniac. Huh, sucks for Jeff. Yep. You're kind of complimenting me, he mumbled. However, I'm afraid I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I looked at him, my mouth slightly agape. A gap as he quickly covered his mouth. I apologize. I had a relative who swore a lot. Nodding in response, I faintly recall the same thing with me. However, due to EJ's undeniable hatred for swearing, I'd learned to filter my words. Here, midget, Evie hummed, carrying the mirror from the spare room out, holding it in front of him. He stared at himself with what he seemed like owl-like eyes. He tucked his hair behind his ears, pulling his jaw to the side as he stared at his deathly pale face. I sat behind him, staring at his reflection, and couldn't help but notice his ears folded back. Hey, come on, kid. At least you don't have an open gash on your face. Hey, come on, kid. At least you don't have an open gash on your He turned around and hid against my chest, catching me off guard. I gestured for Evie to move the mirror away, which she did, and sat in front of us. Hey, relax, midget. You remind me of that boy, oh snap, Nuggets, what was his name? He's from a video game, doesn't ever talk, especially pisses off chickens and smashes pots. Yeah, that's a good interpretation of Link. That's perfect. Oh, I get so mad. Some people say Zelda. That's his name. I'm like, no, you moron. It's Link. That's the game. Oh my gosh. Ugh. He rotated her hand in front before Ben mumbled, Link. She snapped her fingers and nodded firmly. Ah, yeah, that was it. She smiled, which, considering he was hidden against my chest, he didn't see. Don't compare me to him, he grumbled. However, she ignored him. Oh, I found this in your old clothes. She tossed the small gray cartridge at his feet, which he glanced at it before bolting out for it. However, the broken shackle around his left wrist caught on my shirt. While I tried to unstick it, he grabbed the cartridge with his right and hid back against my chest, hugging it to my chest. My game. I thought I'd lost it. Okay. Oops. Ben's POV. Well, someone's overprotective. I heard this Evie girl mumble as I hid my game between me and Toby. I wasn't sure why I had been so quick to want to hide it. Sure, I love this game. My grandparents had bought it for me for my 12th birthday, along with the Nintendo 64 and controller, but it wasn't just my love for the game. It was just my instinct to keep it away from people. Now, apparently. What game is it? Toby asked, and I had to glance down at the cartridge to make sure it was actually my game. Majora's Mask, I mumbled, shrugging softly. Legend of Zelda? Wow, you look like Link and even play his games? Evie snickered. This, for some reason, pissed me off to no end. Not sure why. Cool. I used to play Legend of Zelda. Why are you... Just say Legend of Zelda, not L-O-Z. Literally pisses me off. Never mind Link, me. Not Ben Drown. I used to play Legend of Zelda whenever I could. Toby shrugged. I think I did. I can't remember shit. I couldn't help but chuckle at this. I like this guy. He's decent enough. So, Midget, can I see the cartridge, or is it VIP only? VIP, I grumbled. Well, someone has an attitude. I felt a slight tug on one of my ears. Instant pain shooting through my skull. For a shy boy, you have a real big attitude. Hissing, I temporarily drop my game and turn around. Next thing I know, my hand is on fire. She's on the floor halfway across the room with a burn mark on her face. Remember this, Ben. If you want girls to like you, don't be violent towards them. They're like fucking bees. You piss one of them off, the rest comes after you to sting you. Sorry, Coline. Looks like I broke one of your rules. I backed up a little before tripping over Toby, yelping loudly. However, before my back made contact with the floor, I found myself falling onto the couch. Looking around, I glanced at Toby, who seemed in too much of his own world, pointing from where his leg was to me, mumbling, small, what? How's, you regret that, kid, Evie grumbled. Sitting up one of her eyes forced shut from the burn. Well, you shouldn't have done that, I hissed, with a confidence that was too big for my own good. My game is special, I mumbled, standing up to take it from Toby's lap. Special? It's an oldest version in existence. Did you not have enough money to get a better console? I heard slight ticks in my mind and glancing down at my hands. I felt the heat rise from them so much so that a few strands of my hair was pushed back in its breeze. My grandparents bought it for me, I muttered, sucking in a small breath to calm myself, the heat in my hands dying down a little. Boo-hoo, for a little blonde boy lost his family. Why? Did you ignore them so much with your games you didn't realize they were dead? Evie! Toby yelled in a voice I could only describe as extremely pissed off. If you're going to talk to us like that, then you go back to chilling with Jeffrey. Don't you dare taunt him like that. He stood up and the two then squared up to each other. It's not my fault he punched me in the fucking face. What if he wasn't treated right? What if he was abused and had so little in his life? All he could resort was video games. Stupid cat, fuck off. Don't think about coming back. The two glared at each other before she huffed, turned storming from the room. You okay? Don't take it personally. It's her nature to try and get to people mentally. He pet my head, making me flinch a little, however, soon got used to it. It's fine, I mumble. Probably saved yourself from having your house destroyed by the two of us. He chuckled and sat next to me. Oh shit, the pizza. Hold on, kid. He ran from the room in which my gaze followed until he was out of sight. After a few minutes, he came back with a plate, a slice of pizza hanging from his mouth, a new plaster-like patch over the gash on his face, covering it completely. Thanks, I mumble, taking the plate from him, munching on the slice he'd given me. He nodded and sat next to me, looking back at me again. With a soft sigh, I responded to his stare and with ask away. Instantly, he pointed at my hands. Could you teach me how to do the fire thing? Save me buying gas and matches. I looked at him and shrugged. I'm honest, I didn't know I could do that. You a pyromaniac or something? He nodded quickly. Should I be scared of getting burnt? I have a friend who got burnt on a newly made 4th degree stage. I love scaring him with fire. He explained, taking a bite of his pizza. Ask away, he looked at me. I didn't have a question for him, but I thought of something pretty quickly. How'd you get that gash? He pointed out at his left cheek. Oh, this little mosquito bite? It's nothing. He grinned. From what I can remember, something about a car and a shit ton of glass. He rested his cheek on his hand. But enough about me. What's your story, kid? Well, shit. Now I have to use my brain cells and remember it all. Weird dreams. All right, well, if you need me, I'm in the room 2 doors down, he said. I nodded, hugging a pillow tightly, closing my eyes. He left the light on, as I had asked, closing the door quietly. Once he stepped out of earshot, I pulled the hood of his hoodie over my head, yawning softly. Toby said his hoodie was something he used to wear, but it got too small for him. So it was cool if I kept it safe for him. Which, despite it not seeming like a big responsibility, it felt like one to me. Squishing my little cheeks up against the pillow, I smiled softly. I wasn't sure how I'd gotten here, but it sure was better than what I came from. It had been quite a long day for us, trying to remember things about ourselves, and Toby trying with all his might to get his hands to set on fire, but as expected, he had no such luck. Toby was funny, yet formal, and knew when to be serious, which he apparently didn't like to show around me. Closing my eyes, I slowly slid into sleep, though I was worried about him having my game in a safe place. I was able to fall asleep easily. I was surrounded by darkness, my hair flowing upwards, partly blocking my vision. The only light being above me, a faint tinted blue moonlight. Suddenly, a hand shot around the water, grabbing me by the waist, was pulling from the water, only to be greeted with a laundry pool from Majora's Mask. That could have been a very terrible fate if I hadn't saved you. I look over, looking at the second scariest character of Majora's Mask, besides Tingle. Is it Triangle? Because they didn't spell it right. I thought the triangle was really scary. Besides Tingle, he's fucking terrifying. The happy mask salesman, he towered over me with his creepy-ass grin, holding his hand out to me. Welcome, you must be Ben. Your game file was quite an interesting one. I stared at him with a probably creeped out look as he pulled me along. I opened my mouth to talk, however, found myself unable to. As he pulled me through Clocktown, I'll admit, I couldn't help but stare at my surroundings. It looked so real from this point of view. Now, you're probably aware of your abilities by now, and already know what you are, but he looked at me and saw my confused expression, instantly pulling a poker face. To put it simply, you're a cyber ghost. When you died, your soul wasn't at peace. You were forced into latching onto the first electronic force, which was this game. He smiled. He was cut off by a loud scream, followed by a sigh from him. As he stepped back a few seconds later, a kid clad in green fell out of nowhere, face planting on the floor. He sat up, rubbing his head. Wait, was that Deku Shrub? I'm presuming it was him, pulled at the side of his face, tearing it off, which was a little creepier than what the game outside showed. With a flash of light, then appeared Link, who stared up at the two of us. He stood up and stared at me with owl-like eyes, which I was most likely mirroring perfectly. Link, my boy, did you find my mask yet? Salesman asked, and I saw Link look away awkwardly. Cue the strangulation scene once again. Link, I need the mask. I need it back soon, he yelled before glancing at me as I tapped him. Getting the message, he dropped Link, and I held my hand out for him. He stared at it, probably staring at the shackle and long black nails. Before he could even grab my hand, he turned on my feet and bolted out to the other direction. Well, that was rude. Don't mind him, Benjamin. He's a little distant. It seems our time is up here. I looked at him suddenly, finding myself back at the laundry pool. I've provided you with some clothing and suitable weapons. Until next time. And with that, he shoved me back with a silent scream, water engulfing me and filling up my lungs. I screamed and thrashed, hoping to get back up to the surface. However, failed, and with a few minutes of strangling, I was forced to suck in a breath of water. My vision got black. I think these are called, PEMDAS, parentheses. I think these are the E's in PEMDAS. You've met with a terrible fate, haven't you? I woke up to hands on my shoulders shaking me quite violently. Yelling, I curled my legs to my chest, shooting my feet upwards, kicking my attacker in the jaw. They didn't have much of a response other than a grunt, and then everything went still. I opened one of my eyes and to find Toby having his head tilted back, my feet against his chin. Oh shit! Sorry, Toby, I mumble, lowering my feet. He rubbed his jaw and shrugged. I couldn't help but notice his attire, being in his boxers and a tank top, both of the same black color. It's cool, man, but are you okay? You were screaming like a little girl or something. He snickered. I felt myself blush from embarrassment, hiding under the blankets and hood. However, I felt the bed shift and a weight on my back. Slowly lifting my head, I looked over my shoulder, only to be met with brown hair tickling my ears and neck. Laying my head back down, I pulled his hood back up, only for it to be pulled down and his arm to slid under my head, the other against almost spooning me. Don't worry, kid, I gotcha, he mumbled, now sounding half asleep. Just go back to sleep. I'll stay here with you. Huh. As if I'd fall asleep after that. And about a half an hour later, low snores came from the brunette. Extremely long, light snoring came from the blonde. Just kicking the jaw. Yeah, I'm going to sleep after that. I would be in so much pain. Ugh. Nah, B. I ain't going to sleep after that. I would be in so much pain and be like, I need morphine to the head because that hurt. Sorry, I'm cracking my neck. Static mind. This is the last one until for me to stop, because I'll stop at 40-something. Static mind. I woke up to a loud static sound in my ears, followed by a low whimper from me covering my ears. I stood up slowly and looked around silently for Toby, finding him nowhere in sight. Blinking in confusion, I walked from the bedroom only to have it get worse. Toby, I called, trying with all my might to keep my ears shielded. I wandered around, my vision becoming blurred the longer I walked closer to the back door. Avoiding it as best as I could, I soon found myself not having any other option. Toby wouldn't leave without telling me first, right? Maybe he's outside or something. Using my elbow to push the handle down, opening the door, looking around the empty wooded space, I walked forward, black dots covering my vision. Partly, however, upon hearing the crunching of dead leaves under my feet, the now almost pleasing static sound, I found myself still walking. Wind brushed my hair over my eyes. However, I didn't seem to care as I stared forward, focused on nothing. I soon stopped in a small clearing. I didn't look around, feeling a cold chill on my spine. However, I didn't see a figure in front of me, hidden halfly by the darkness. I did see a figure. I did see a figure in front of me, hidden half by the darkness. I heard quiet whispers, and the two other figures stood either side of the first. The static became louder and louder until my vision became misty. My ears felt numb. Speak your name. I glanced around the voice. However, when I looked back at the three, they were much closer to me, just enough for me to see the white blood splattered mask of one and the mustard yellow jacket. Ben, I responded out loud. The one in view tilted its head slightly. I saw the shadowed over ones look at each other, on twitching and on the other simply standing there. Isn't that your jacket? The masked one mumbled, looking back at one of the others who stepped forward. This one's fact was hidden by orange goggles and a silver gray mouth cage. An unfamiliar gray jacket and bandaged arms, topped off with a familiar hat and fingerless gloves. Toby, I muttered. He looked over to me and rubbing one of his arms, reaching down for two large bloody splattered hatchets that were attached to his belt. The third stepped forward with what looked like a video camera. You know this kid? The masked one asked. He's a recent catch of mine. I looked at him in disbelief before he ran at me. I shielded myself with my arms and everything went black. I woke up abruptly, looking around with sharp eyes, finding myself in a familiar room. However, the only light was coming from the crack in the bottom of the door. Slowly I stood up, only to have a cold rush of hair make me shiver and rub my arms, which were for once bare. Looking down at myself, I narrowed my eyes in confusion. I felt around for the light switch before I found it. I turned the light on and glanced at myself, which, once more, I was wearing what looked to be a uniform Link wore, but much darker, and had a few snags and tears on the sleeves and rim. Though my feet were still bare, I quickly noticed the set of brownish leather boots sat by the bed with a note stuck on it. Curious, I waddled on over and knelt down, picking up the note. Thought you might like these, son, from the salesman. I cocked my head to the side, slowly slipped on the boots, which fit me pretty well. Then I remembered something. Running from the room, I looked around quietly, walking into the small living room. I jumped when I found Toby asleep on the couch, in the tank top and boxer shorts. Tilting my head, I walked back into my room and pulled the blanket off the bed, waddling on back to him, setting the blanket over him. He didn't even have a reaction other than a relaxed sigh. Did Toby really have hatchets? Did he think of me as a catch or a friend? I felt dark rage rise in me at that thought. I trusted this boy, and all he thought of me was just his catch. Scowling, I walked into his room and began looking around. I just had to find my game, and surely enough, I'd be able to get a hold of the salesman again, like Zozo and the Ouija board bullcrap. Sitting in front of the small broken TV that sat covered in dust in the corner of the room, I stared at it blankly for a while, not really sure what to do. However, upon reaching my hand to the screen, a few sparks hit my fingertips as they traced the screen, gripping my game with the other. I pushed my hand slowly through the screen, then my head, then my whole body. What I found behind the screen was a world of black and green pixels. Why'd that remind me of Minecraft for some reason? Probably the green. I played Minecraft once, and that's it. I stared wide-eyed at the terrifying large abyss I was faced with, glancing down at the blue hue surrounding my legs. I seemed to be hovering. Glancing at my cartridge, I found a little trail of white pixels trailing in a small line, leading into nothingness. It took me a good few tries, but in the end, I did end up bolting forward, basically face planting in a few pixels. Standing up, I glared down at my feet and sighed. So, this is what it's like to learn to drive a car, I grumbled, rolling my eyes. What? I'm so confused. Okay, guys, I'm going to stop it there. Thank you guys for watching. I guess this is going on to 50 minutes. Please like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't yet, put on push notifications. And comment down below what you want to see next. And I hope you liked this series. And I still have to put up, if you want a shout out, please let me know down below. I still have to put up some bloopers for my other series that I did in the past. And don't worry, I will do that series. I have also a little thing to tell you. I am going to do more stories, and they're going to come in threes. If I do a snary story, I have to do 2 other stories that are different, like a dreary snary and what is it called? Creepypasta. That's what I'm doing right now, and that's what I'm going to continue to be doing. Every week is at least one of them is going to have an update. And tomorrow I'm going to do the dreary, and then the day after that I'm going to do the snary. And if I cut it off there, I'm still not going to start over. I'm just going to go to whatever's next, and that's Creepypasta. So thank you guys for watching. I love you guys so much. You are amazing. Be happy, be healthy, and always be loving. Bye bye.